ninja. High voltage. When we touch. When we kiss.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Chosen Ones. This week we were lucky enough to land on Kennen, the littlest ninja. I've always liked Kennen in TFT, going all the way back to Set 1. His impact is easy to track, with an ability that feels like it could be on a 5 cost, even though he only costs 3. I also enjoy how seriously he takes himself in-game and even in his splash, when he's basically Pikachu. Now, I've already tried 4 Ninja when we landed on Shen, and we've also played a lot of Keepers recently, so to keep things fresh, I'm going to lean into Cultist. Both Kennen and Galio are all about their big, scary circles, and honestly, Kennen's outfit looks more like cult robes than a ninja's, so I think it should all work out. We managed to find a Kennen before the first round starts, which is great because we want to start training him early. And I know I mentioned Pikachu earlier, but the more I think about it, playing TFT is very similar to Pokemon battling. Like, at the end of the day, I don't do any fighting. I just stand over to the side and yell, "Kennen, use Thunderbolt!" And a big part of both games is the team composition. It's important to always diversify our team, so while our opponent seems to be going Warlord, I've been building a team with Electricity, Bug, Grass, and Dark units. Oh, and Keeper Cultist as well. Together they can pull out a win despite Kennen's horrible ult positioning. On the topic of positioning, Keepers is a mixed bag. On the one hand, I don't have to pretend I have some big brain reasoning for where everybody goes, and I can just clump my units together, which really saves mental energy. But on the downside, you occasionally face Lux. You can see here a bit of divine intervention from Lux. Also, you can see everybody goes divine right as Kennen's damage comes online. Overall, just not a very lucky fight for us. But on the flip side, it's our 5th fight, and this is only our first loss. No pain, no gain. That's my philosophy I have whenever I'm trying to make a cult. Now for this round, let's focus in on an important matchup for Kennen, that is fighting a smaller, weaker Kennen. Now obviously Kennen has no type advantages against himself, and he's even going to get paralyzed from the smaller Kennen, so the obvious move here is we will substitute him out for Galio, who is super effective against tiny little rodents. And then a little used trick that you'll never see in any of the Pokemon games is if I have more units than my opponent, I'll just get them all to beat up the same unit at once. You can say it's dishonorable, but at the end of the day, this isn't exactly a noble sport. My team's still dancing, for goodness sake. Now a pro tip, as your Kennen levels up, make sure to teach a double team. This will give you a double Kennen, or a Ken twin, if you will. I mean, out of all the units to double up on, Kennen is actually a pretty good one. I mean, worst comes to worst, he's still an extra body providing Keeper shields, and it allows you to have 2 units that have the ninja buff, which is actually impossible to do otherwise. It also creates this fun dynamic where instead of thunder following lightning, instead a different piece of lightning follows the first one. And most importantly, it solves a question that comes up in a lot of these videos. Who is the second carry on your team? Well, in this one it's pretty clear. Kennen is your primary carry, and failing in that, Kennen is your secondary carry. Honestly, it doesn't change our strategy up too much. We're still clumping together our units a bit to get that Keeper bonus. Really the only main difference is instead of telling Kennen to give them the Thunderbolt 1, well, in the words of Ash Ketchum,
let's give him our Thunderbolt 2!
Sometimes you find good audio for the video you're making, and I consider this one of those times. There are some downsides to double Kennen, and I think they are most clear in this fight. To be fair, both Kennens are able to get off decent ult, and the fight is very close. But by going double Kennen, I am sitting at 5 Cultist, and you can see just how close Galio was to turning the fight if he could have been just a bit bigger. You could honestly argue that Kennen is holding back the comp that was built around him. But the wheel didn't land on Galio, it landed on Kennen, so Kennen stays in. I don't have much to add to this fight, I just wanted to include it because, oh my gosh, did they melt. Well, that was certainly something. I'll post a link in the description. The song is called Pikachu Used Thunderbolt, so you can see how it came up a lot in editing this video. Basically what I'm trying to get across, though, is that this is a powerful point for us in the game where we just got our 2 Kennens and our 6 Cultists online at the same time. We can even beat attack speed Tom Kench. However, there are weaknesses to this composition, and we can see two of the big ones right here. First off, because we've leaned so heavily into Cultist and Kennen synergy, we don't have a duelist or a sharpshooter to help accentuate either our Jin or our Callista. They're both just sort of going off their base stats. This leads into our second weakness. Kennen is great at obliterating the enemy front line, but if the enemy has a Jinx or somebody hiding way back in the corner, there isn't really much we can do unless Galio chooses to jump right on them. An Aatrox would help here, of course. We haven't found one, but even if we did, I find most of the time the enemy is going to have a Quicksilver or something to block it. So what do you do when you have a team that has problems and not a lot of flexibility in its synergy? Well, you just throw a 5-cost unit on there and hope it fixes things. So we put in Yone, and honestly, he's not a bad fit for us. Like I was saying, we had a bit of trouble getting to the far corners. Well, that's all Yone does. So we can have Kennen and Kennen deal with the front line, Yone jumps to the back, and you know what, it works. We were able to knock out the guy in last, so praise be upon Galio. Before this team composition starts to really fall off, I wanted to highlight an excellent fight for us. You can see some great matchups like Kennen vs Kennen, Yone vs Yone with a Warmogs, and of course, Set vs Galio. One thing I found interesting about this fight was the fact that both of the players going keepers put Yone on their team, who doesn't really synergize with keepers, at least from what I can tell. I just put him in because he looked cool. So just like every time I face this player who's going Divine, I'm going to lose this fight. And I thought to myself, why do I keep losing? What's weak about this team? And I realized a Chosen Elise isn't really that helpful. I mean, it's not like it's that difficult to get 6 Cultists, and it's a 1-cost unit that I've made Chosen. Basically, I decided I don't need this Elise. I'm going to sell her from the team. And I'm going to go for a 5-cost Chosen. And you know what? I found it. I got an Azir. So I got a 2-star Azir, and you know what? I completely ruined my whole team comp. I lost 6 Cultists. I didn't even get 4 Keeper. It's a Chosen Warlord Azir, so it's not really doing anything. And worst of all, I end the game 1 Kennen off of a 3-star. Which is a shame because I honestly think Kennen could carry if he was 3-star. I think with a bit better damage items and maybe more leaning into Keeper than the weird Cultist build I did, but I think a 3-star Kennen could carry you. But in a pinch, 2 2-star Kennens can get you 3rd place, you know? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like it if you did like it, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to make one of these every week, so lots more champions to go through. If you don't feel like subscribing, the other option is, of course, you can come fight me IRL. But watch out, I have learned Mega Punch.